Mo, my first bet that I put in my column this week, I took the under in Ravens Browns. I betted at under 38.5 minus 115. I think that's still available, but if not, I would play it down to still under 38 minus 110. It was initially at 37.5 earlier in the week. So a little bit of steam, kind of similar to Jets Chargers on the over. But if you look at both of these defenses, and on the surface, they're great. And when you dig deep into the heavier analytics, I guess, when you factor out garbage time, they're also pretty stellar. So both defenses rank top 2 in EPA per play allowed, and they still rank top 4. The Ravens are actually slightly ahead in that category when you factor out garbage time. And even with Deshaun Watson back for the Browns last week, Cleveland still had roughly a league average dropback EPA against a pretty poor Cardinals defense. Now, you could say that the script warranted less attempted explosive plays offensively, but nonetheless, Watson still looks a little bit rusty, or at this point, maybe he just is what he is at this point. And Baltimore's secondary, should be getting a lift if Marcus Williams comes back, and he was off the injury report earlier this week, so we'll see if he winds up playing. But their secondary has outperformed what they were even at an above-average clip so far this season, considering Marlon Humphrey is allowing a 0.04 yards per coverage snap over the last 4 weeks. So he's starting to return to form after dealing with a nagging injury and missing the first couple of games at least. And Cleveland's going to be without their 2 starting tackles from the beginning of the season, with Wills just being placed on injured reserve on Monday. And they may be also without their backup right tackle, DeJuan Jones. So it's going to be difficult for Watson to have time in the pocket, even though the Ravens don't get a ton of pressure. This is still an elite coverage group and an elite linebacker group as well, led by Roquan Smith, that disguises their zone coverage very well under their second-year defensive coordinator, Mike Macdonald. Even though the Ravens have increased their pass rate over expectation with a new offensive coordinator in Todd Monken, I think they were bottom 5 in that category last year with Greg Roman. The adjusted pace is still tied for 5th lowest, I think, with Buffalo, and Cleveland ranks below league average in that department too. So I expect the pace to be pretty slow and a pretty methodical tempo on both sides. I think both defenses play up to par, at least what they played at this season, and how well they've held opponents to a pretty low efficiency in regards to explosive playmakings and success rate. And you also factor in the Browns getting back Greg Newsome, their number 2 corner behind Denzel Ward, or across from Ward. He was back at practice on Thursday. I really like the under, even though may be considered to be low at this point at 38, but that's also the way totals have gone this season in the NFL. So what say you for this game, Mo?
Yeah, I would think on the surface both of these teams should be able to get to about 20 points, but I don't know, man. They're both really tough to get a read on, to be honest. I don't know what to think of Baltimore. I mean, they've feasted on a clown schedule, but then at the same time, like, arguably the 2 best teams they played was the 2 strongest games they've had. So it's really hard to tell what's going on with them. I'm definitely concerned about the injuries on the Cleveland end. Like you said, we could be looking at a 3rd-string tackle here. I mean, they've just been decimated. I mean, obviously the interior is still very strong, which definitely helps, but I kind of feel like the Ravens might roll again versus a pretty bad quarterback here. And if they do, then I think we're definitely looking at an under, because that probably means the Ravens are doing the same thing they've been doing in recent weeks, which is, even though Lamar's been playing pretty well for the most part, I mean, they're winning because of their defense. I mean, just absolutely locking some of these teams up, like Seattle, just completely inept on offense against them. And pretty much the same story for Detroit. So I don't really have an opinion, I don't think, on the total, but I kind of think the Ravens might destroy the Browns. But at the same time, just laying points in these divisional matchups, especially with a low total like this, and that many points, is not something I'm excited to do. So probably just an overall stay away for me. But I definitely get why people would want to bet the under here when these teams have been so strong on defense, and especially on the Browns end, not very exciting on offense.
And the familiarity factor, to your point about divisional matchups, even though you can kind of throw out the first time these two teams played in Cleveland, I think in week 4, just because Dorian Thompson-Robinson was starting at quarterback. Watson's an upgrade, about below average, but definitely an upgrade over Thompson-Robinson, but really like the under in this spot. So that's my first bet for week 10.